Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Faith, Failure, and Success virtual launch celebration. The book has gone live and it's currently on Amazon.com. And we have the opportunity today to sit down and talk to some of its contributing writers. I am going to be your host, Terry Johnson. I'm the host of the backstory also. So if you guys like to get started, come on and spend an hour with us as we go over and introduce some of the contributing writers to Faith, Failure, and Success. Now, what Faith, Failure, and Success is, it's an inspiring book that gives you backstory and ideas regarding people who have been through the valley and have come out to the other side. And they're going to be able to show us some of those things today or share some of those stories with us. If you're ready to get started, join me for 1 hour with speaking to the contributing writers of Faith, Failure, and Success. First up, we have Miss Latricia, and she did the foreword for the book.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for taking the time, to spend and talk to us. I think Faith, Failure, and Success is based upon it just being 2020. It's really a time that's needed for just people and all the many things they've gone through. Now, you wrote the foreword to the book. What made you do that? What inspired you to write the foreword to the book?
Well, for me, the inspiration came from think about all who God is and the importance of business owners and entrepreneurs actually operating like God in business. A lot of times as Christians, we are pretty much told by the world that we have to divorce our Christianity in order to be successful in business. But what I've seen is there are a lot of businesses that are operating like God and they are extremely successful. For example, God is omnipotent. He has all power. So basically, the more you network with different people, you are able to exude power in the area of business. God is omnipresent. He's in all places at all times. And so the more information you know about your target market, you know about your clientele, the more information you know about your, if you will, those who are operating in the same area of business, the better you are. So the more information you have, the more present you are, the more you're engaging with people through social media, you're being omnipresent, if you will, in business. And God is all knowing. It's important for us to know as much as we possibly can to be successful. So you should always be researching your target market. You should always be researching how to make your product better. Your product, in a sense, is the good news that you ought to be sharing constantly. And so if you are operating like God in the area of business, then you're exuding his characteristics with how you operate your company. And that's important.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. I want to give a little background, just a little blurb about the book, because it always interests me to find out why people do what they did. Because we know that in business, there are certain lines you need to follow and things you need to do. But when it comes to life and the pitfalls and things like that, I want to know, and let me say this first. Faith, Failure, Success is an inspiring, informative, and much needed blueprint for maneuvering through life's journey. So right now, with the foreword, the book coming out, it's available on Amazon, which you guys can see. You'll be able to pick it up all night. So if you see any of the writers, contributing writers, Ms. Tressa herself, if you guys like to pick it up, go for it. It's available on Amazon. So if you hear something from them, know you can pick it up. So during this time, the foreword, the book coming out, what would you say would be some advice or inspiration that you could offer to those who will reading it, who will be reading your words? What would you like to offer?
The advice that I would have to offer is keep an open mind. If you feel like your business has not performed as well as you desired it to do, guess what? You have another opportunity to make it the way you desire to do. So basically, you can go forward and you can operate like God in business and watch your business explode. Just shake off all the negative stuff. Quite a few different posts in the book that I saw that really blessed me also talked about the ups and the downs with regards to entrepreneurship. And you have ups and downs even in your relationship with people. So don't give up just because it seems difficult. Keep pushing.
Okay, so I'm going to ask all my guests this because I'm really curious about it. What's your 2021 outgoing advice?
My 2020 outgoing advice is Look at what happened in 2020 and learn from it, grow from it. Too often we get caught up in the negative things and ignore or we fail to see the positive aspects of it. Yes, things have been hard in 2020, but guess what? There's been some blessings as well. You saved on your car insurance, you have saved on mileage on that car, you have hopefully you've been able to pay off more debt in 2020. So your credit score should be improving. So just look at 2020 in its totality as opposed to the hardships that are experienced and grow from the hardships.
You know what? I think that is awesome because a lot of people stay, have looking at the negative aspects, but there have been some blessings in this year. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. And again, Latressa, she wrote the forward in the book. So now that you see her, you're able to relate to what she's saying. We appreciate you for stopping by and chatting with us as this book during the book launch celebration. That's what we're going to call it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're moving on along. What we're going to do is we're going to introduce, it's called Faith, Failure, and Success. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a little spin on it. We're going to introduce the failure portion first. And I want to be able to talk to, we have Glenn Murray and Mel Roberson to talk about the failure portion of it, because we want to start, this is 2020, so why not? And hey, Glenn, how are you?
You're muted, Glenn.
Sorry, I'm wonderful. How are you? Now that I'm unmuted, I'm even better. Deterrent freeze.
We got.
Yeah, I think TJ is.
Got you? The fertilizer, good. We still got you.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. We got you. We're here. Hey, welcome, Mel. Welcome, Glenn. Thanks, you guys, for joining us during the celebration. I'm going to plug, the book is available through Amazon, so you guys go ahead and pick it up. So now what I want to know, you guys, failure. Why that topic?
Mel, you want to start?
Sure, Glenn Murray. Anything for you, brother.
Go right ahead, sir.
Failure is a necessary component of success. In order for anything to be here, you need the antithesis of that thing. One of my mentors said, I once prayed for patience, and in order for me to obtain patience, I needed frustration, right? There cannot be any patience without frustration. There cannot be any success without failure. There cannot be night without day. You need the antithesis of that thing. So failure is the fertilizer for success. It's the thing that helps it grow. It's the thing that gives us the lessons that we need in order for us to become successful. And failure is only ultimately.
Wait a minute, Mel. Come on, you got to help me. Help me with that. Help me as just someone who hears. How can failure be a fertilizer? That failure doesn't feel or sound good.
Okay. Failure doesn't feel or sound good, but it's necessary for you to learn the lessons that you need in order to become successful. A calm sea has never produced an expert sailor, right? So the only way that you can become an expert sailor is with the opposition, is with the calm sea, right? I mean, without the calm sea, you need the rough sea in order to be an expert sailor. The only way that an airplane achieves lift is the negative wind resistance that eventually helps it achieve lift to get off the ground. The way that you build muscle is by tearing it down when you're working out. That's what you're doing in order to build further strength. So the antithesis of success is necessary. The failure is necessary to fail your way to the top, to learn those lessons, to grow, to become something greater than you currently are in order to do something greater than you've done in a previous time.
Okay. Now, Glenn, I'm curious, why find a way in the failure section?
Find a way is in the failure section because I talk about people who have overcome perceived weakness, physical weakness, and true ailments. So I use a few analogies. I'm a sports fanatic, so I use the football analogy because I use Doug Flutie. He was perceived to be not able to play the quarterback position because of his height. He was 5'7". So back in the 80s, all the quarterbacks were 6'2" and above. So at 5'7", people perceived that he was never going to be a quarterback, let alone a professional quarterback. He was never going to be a college quarterback. So I write about that, and I talk about how he wasn't scouted for the quarterback position. which is one of the reasons why he had like a really weird number, like 22 or something like that, because they thought he was going to be a defensive back, because people that size were defensive backs until he changed the game. So he really changed the perception of what it meant to be a star quarterback. He was 4th on the depth chart, and a few quarterbacks had to leave school, get hurt, for him to even get a chance to start. And once he did, he took it and he ran with it. So Find a Way is the name of the chapter, because he found a way, regardless of the perception of what he was. He found a way in his mind that he was going to play quarterback. And he went on to be a Hall of Famer in the Canadian Football League. He went on to play in the NFL. And he's legendary to this day for some of the games that he won. So that was one. The other is physical ailments and not letting physical ailments stop you. So I write about, and this was very moving to me, a gentleman named John Claude Barbet. He wrote a book called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. That's not what's amazing. He wrote the book paralyzed. He could only move his left eye. He had a stroke and he developed something called locked-in syndrome. And he's French, 40 years old, early 40s. He learned the French alphabet by blinking his left eye. He had already had a book deal before this all happened to him. So he literally called his publisher. He had someone come in and teach him the alphabet, and he blinked out his entire book. The book was called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. It went on to become a bestseller, and there was a film made of it, and it was nominated for an Oscar, all by blinking the left eye. So I wrote about that because I get so many people that come to me with use of all their limbs and all their eyes and talk about writing books, and they never do. And I always call this, and I say it in the book, if you can blink it, you can achieve it. Because all he could do was blink. That was the only thing he could move until the day he died. And he was able to write a best-selling book. So there are no excuses. There are no limitations on the mind. And the diving bell and the butterfly represent that. The diving bell is an old-fashioned apparatus that was used for sailors, and it kept you at the bottom of the ocean. And the butterfly was his mind, which was still free and able to fly anywhere. So at the end of the chapter, I asked people, what's your diving bell? What's holding you at the bottom of an ocean of doubt? What's holding you at the bottom of an ocean of indecision? Who's holding you down and keeping you from achieving what you really want to do? Where's the butterfly? How do you find the butterfly in your mind? And how do you go and grow and do all the things that you need to do?
And so, Glenn,
that's so loaded. But go ahead, Mel. That is so loaded.
No, I was going to say, so anybody interested in writing a book, what Glenn basically said, in addition to the wonderful things, is that he will sit there and watch you blink your book out and help you write it. So if
that is not what Glenn said. I did not hear Glenn say that.
Good job.
That is not what I heard. No, that is not what I heard. But Glenn will be there to encourage the butterfly in your mind to fly and write that book and blink it out. Definitely. The other thing I wrote about on a personal note was my mom, which we've talked about on your show before. And I talk about courage and being able to achieve under really difficult conditions. After she was diagnosed with lung cancer at stage 4, she completed her PhD because she had that goal in her mind and nothing was going to stop her. So I learned about strength and I learned about finding a way. I had a very close and personal education on doing that. So that's the other reason I wrote that. And it's one of the reasons I pulled this book together and really got all these talented contributors that you're going to talk to tonight. Because I know in their own way, they have their own personal stories that they'll share.
Good segue. Glenn is the mastermind behind Faith, Failure, and Success. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to sit with you guys both, because I think starting off with failure, people think that's the end of the road, but I want to start because it can be the beginning. So with that, I'm really curious, and this I'll ask all the contributing writers today is, what's your 2020 advice? Because it's a great time this book is coming out, because we're getting the heck up out of 2020. But what do people do with all they've experienced, the failure possibly? What do they do with that?
I think they learn from it, right? So the important thing is to take away from every experience something. Napoleon Hill said, every adversity carries with it a seed of equivalent or greater benefit. So even though there have been some tragic things that have taken place in 2020, what is the seed of equivalent or greater benefit? What lessons can you take from this, right? Mm-hmm. You can take the pain away, put the pain to the side. And what is the lesson that you learned? Who did you have to become in the process? How creative did you have to be to make some things work out? So stop looking for all of the things that went wrong. We already know those are the things that went wrong. How did you react to them? How did you respond to them? How did you get over them? How did you take lemons and turn them into lemonade, you know, and then develop not only a lemonade stand, but a lemonade recipe that you sold to another company for $1 million. Now you don't have to work the lemonade stand anymore, right?
I see you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that, it's that type of thing. So 2020 has been, in some regards, it sucked. It's been horrible. We've lost a lot of people. A lot of people lost their jobs and found themselves in financial situations that weren't the best. However, it's been a year of innovation. It's been a year of regrouping. It's been a year of rest for some people that was so needed and necessary for them to recharge and be able to move forward and do something beyond what they've already done. So the other part is 2020 isn't canceled. A lot of games are won in the fourth quarter. Oh. Right. So it's not over with yet. We still have all of December to really kick some butt and take some names and come out on top, come out the victor of 2020. So if the last 11 months have been horrible, what do you plan on doing for the next 30, 31 days so that that's not how this chapter ends?
Yes, sir. I hear that. Glenn, take us out of here with failure. What did we turn into? We got lemons into recipes and entrepreneurs getting started. What you got?
I feel like 2020 is just a date on the calendar. If your mind is not programmed to achieve, it doesn't matter that 2021 is coming or not. You need to make sure that you're focused on what you need to do, not on what date is on the calendar, not that it's December 1st or whatever this is, November 30th or January 1st, because nothing will change if your attitude doesn't change. You're going to sit around and do the same thing you sat around and did January 1st, 2020 before COVID hit. And you had all these goals and everything. It's like, it's not about making resolutions. It's about being revolutionary, making revolution, evolving, evolution into whatever you want to do. So sorry, not a revolution, but an evolution. How do you evolve into who you need to be? Because life is going to be life, and it's going to hand you things that you never expected. Nobody expected COVID. It's going to hand you other things. If it wasn't COVID, it would have been something else. So what's going to be your excuse in 2021 when COVID is gone and here we are at November 30th or December 1st of 2021 and you still haven't accomplished your goals? Who are you going to blame then?
Well, there you go. Ended it with the failure section with accountability. Thank you for bringing this idea and this book to fruition into life. I think it's so necessary right now. And the information you guys have shared, you have no idea how it'll probably just ricochet and bounce and help so many other people. So
no, thank you. Thank you. I want to publicly, real quick, thank Mel because he's had a rough year, but he found a way to be a part of this book, to be present, to contribute, and to really help drive this past weekend and everything we needed to do. So I really personally want to thank him for doing that publicly.
I appreciate that.
Thank you for joining me.
Invoice.
Yeah, he's still gonna bill me for it and everything, and that's cool.
Yeah, you guys are gonna need to talk about that online because we have the next segment up. And we move along in this virtual celebration. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, we have the faith section. Now we've heard about failure. Now it's time to move about that valley into brighter places. In the faith section, we have contributing writers Samantha Danielle and Olivia DeMoss.
Hey.
Welcome. Hi, Samantha. How are you?
I'm good, Terry. How you doing?
We got Olivia coming in. We got you both. Okay, you know what? We just had Glenn and Mel talk about the failure section, and this is one of the my topics I love, and that's the faith section. Both of you guys are contributing writers to the section. What do you have? And Olivia, I don't know if you'd like to start. What do you guys feel about your writings for the book Faith, Failure, Success? Your portion, because Olivia, you had the right to be among them. What is that? Olivia, I think we have you on mute.
You're right. Sorry about that. So
can you hear me now? You now. Go ahead. Did you hear my question?
Yes. So as a coach and a consultant, and I think that all people who help others at some point feel like a fraud, right? So that's how I started my chapter. And you've got to have faith in yourself, for one thing. And I think it's very important to stop beating yourself up, for another thing, and also to surround yourself with people who believe in you, because sometimes you don't believe in yourself. And if you have a group of friends or people who support you, when you feel down, they're going to help you back up, right? And then another thing that is super important is to know how to tap into your joy. And did you know that there is a difference between happiness and joy?
Can you give us a brief overview? That's interesting.
Yes. So happiness comes from the outside. So you might have, the beautiful mansion and then the gorgeous mate and the 3-car garage and, all the vacations, everything you want, right? That brings you happiness. But when you think about it, all those things can be taken away from you. In that case, what happens to your happiness level that is right here? It goes down, right? Whereas joy is an inside job. Nobody can ever take it away from you. You have your joy with you, no matter where you go, no matter what happens. And let me tell you that you can grieve. For example, if you lose somebody or you lose a job or whatever, you can grieve and be in joy at the same time.
I like that.
Okay. Yes. And where is it? I wanted to say also, I wanted to remind you that life is a magical adventure that is meant to be enjoyed. I live by this mantra.
That's good.
And if your life isn't about the joy of it, something needs to change, right?
I like that. Yeah. I like how you said happiness is pretty much an external thing and joy is an internal thing. And I think a lot of people do try to bring their happiness from the outside, which I like. Great point. Samantha, you have the mask.
Yeah. The mask, which is my smile.
That's so loaded. I got to see where you're coming from. That's loaded. I got to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So the mask is, in my chapter, I talk about the mask. And for me, everybody's mask is different. For me, it's my smile. So a little bit of background was that I was a wedding planner for 13 years, but during that time, I also went through a divorce. So there were a lot of times when I was at a wedding in the back of the room, like, girl, come on, because this, y'all got about 3 months on this, And so it was just about having to really take what was going on personally with me just out of it. You know what I mean? Like the best example I can give too is, if you go to therapy and you go to your therapist, how would you feel if you got on the couch and then she started telling you all her problems? You would be like, wait a minute, I'm paying you for this time. So that's how I felt about my wedding planning. And so that's what I call the mask, where there was this period in my life where it was very dark. I was very sad, crying and doing all the things that, you do when you go through a divorce and you don't want it and you want it to work out. But then very few people knew I was going through this. Very few. And so that mask is just when you're out, you're smiling, everything's good. And you're doing it for, the clientele. For me, I did it for 2 reasons. For my clientele, because, I didn't want them to worry about me. It's their wedding. That's like once in a lifetime, hopefully for most people. And, I just wanted to be about that. And 2, part of it was, what if me and him would have worked out? Now everybody know your business. So for me, it was just like, I'm just going to smile, keep it going. So, that's what my chapter is about, pushing through when you don't even believe in your business core value anymore. Like for me, the core value was love. And I didn't even know if I believed in that anymore, but I still had so many people to still service, within the business. So that's what the mask is about. And it's in the faith section because there are things that I drew on to get me through. So I mentioned like the therapy. I thought about why I started the business. I had my best friend, I had industry friends, I had people that worked for me that pushed me through. But my faith, I talk about that as one of the things that got me through in this time in my business that I drew on. There's a section in the Bible in Mark 9 where there's a father who has a sick son. And, Jesus basically tells him, like, believe that your son is going to be healed. And the guy said, the father says, I need you to help me, help my unbelief, and he's praying like, Lord, I do believe you. I know you can't help me, but I need you to help me believe, And so that's why I was like, I need help in like believing in love again, and working through that through my faith. So that's what the mask is about.
Do you think, now that you guys have opened up so many different conversation points for me, do you think that people voluntarily, involuntarily wear masks? You think it's something consciously or subconsciously that they do it?
For me, I think it's pretty conscious because when you're acting differently from what you really feel. Right. And so I think it's more conscious because you have to put it on. You have to say, okay, now it's like it's time to perform. Like I have to be on.
Oh, see, now here's what you triggered me to think through the mask. It's like you know how a lot of times, and this could be women too, not wanting to disappoint, not wanting to others to feel bad or something in their presence. So we have an automatic mask that we may put on.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm curious and to know why you think that, and this is just what you think, the mask is something that we developed or even came about.
And I'm sorry, I kind of lost you on the question a little bit. Can you repeat it?
I saw you pause. I was okay. I saw you pause. How do you think? Do you think that the mask is developed through like maybe tragedy, a trauma response, or where do you think it develops from?
Yeah, so I think it's just part of it. It's a coping mechanism for what you're going through, right? So there's a lot of different. So it's like I think for the most part, it's based on trying to hide something bad, right? You don't have to like pretend to smile if everything's good. It's going to be a natural reaction. If you, like Olivia says, if you have the happiness, if you have the joy, it's going to be natural to smile. But if you're sad, depressed, all I guess the negative emotions, and you have to be somewhere like you feel like you have to smile, then that's a forced action.
I like that because it makes me think about Olivia and when she said external happiness, internal joy. How do people stop pulling from the external happiness or sources to get that internal joy?
Well, for one thing, you have to know yourself a little bit, know what brings you joy, what makes you smile, what makes your heart sing. Pay attention to those things, and then do those things as much as possible. For example, for me, nature really inspires me. All I have to do is look out the window, see the birds in the fountain, and I throw seeds to the birds. Those are external things, yes, but actually they make me smile. It really warms up my heart because I know that I'm part of nature. I'm not separate from nature. So to know that I'm part of everything inspires me and brings me joy. There is no, we're not separate islands. Each one of us depends on others. Like, think about it. If you're eating, there had to be somebody to carry the food, to grow it for one thing, to harvest it, to transport it, to pack it, to put it on the shelves. I mean, otherwise you couldn't eat, probably, right? Unless you grew everything yourself. But I mean, we depend on others for everything. We are not an isolated island. And just the fact, just knowing that I'm part of nature, knowing that I am nature, brings me joy.
You know what? I was telling the other the writers that I think this is a great time for this book to come out. I think with all that we've experienced, we've gone through, people need to see some faith, some real life scenarios that people have been through to say, hey, I've been there, and this is what happened when I came out, or this is some advice that I can give. So to listeners, to who watch this on rewind, what would you guys have advice to give them for moving forward and keeping your faith, not wearing a mask, not looking for external things? What advice would you give for people keeping their faith as they move forward? Samantha, you want to give us your thoughts on that, your final thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, you keep your faith when you remember your why. You should always know why you're starting your business, and
Oh,
always
come
go
on now.
back.
That's wise.
So always go back to the core of that. You know what I mean? So if you remember why you did it, and it's truly why you did it, and little sidebar, don't let it be because you want to make a lot of money. That's great. That's a great thing to aspire to be, but it takes most entrepreneurs a long time. You know, people are like, oh, you quit your 9 to 5 to work 24/7. Okay, let's be clear. So, you know, if that's your reason,
you're gonna say it in the back. Yes. Yeah.
So if you remember your why, it'll get you through like anything that you're going through, any of your pitfalls that you might find in your business. You know, if you were supposed to launch this year or something happened, you know, pivot and move on. Pray and pivot would be my simple advice. Pray and pivot.
Pray and pivot and know your why. That's good. I like that. I like that. You like I'm taking notes, ladies. Go ahead. Miss Olivia, what you got?
Yeah, I believe in what Samantha just said. And also I will add, you know, be flexible and be fearless. Okay.
Flexible and fearless.
I used to live in Africa, and I lost my joy. And so after 12 years with a man I loved there, but I had lost my joy, I finally decided to leave. And I came to the US. And so what I can say is, you know, you don't have to move from one continent to another to find your joy. Truly, your joy is there all the time. All you have to do is learn to tap into it. And I would say, you know, regarding 2020, just a little bit of numerology, 2 + 2, you know, 20, 2 + 2 = 4. 4 is the number of stability. So probably in 2020, you learned to, you learned a little bit more about yourself. You learned to put new bases to your structure and to your life, because we have learned to do things differently. And from now on, we're going to probably do things differently if we had the courage to put those new bases in place, right? So again, it's about believing in yourself, having a supportive team, tapping into your joy, being fearless. You know, the word courage comes from the French word cœur, which means heart. So having courage means having heart. So tap into your heart and find the joy and keep chugging along.
You guys have left some amazing nuggets, and for myself, I appreciate the information you shared. Knowing my why, wearing a mask, knowing outside happiness to inside joy. These are areas that I will carry along with me. So I know our viewers are going to find them to be helpful tools. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us on this virtual celebration. We appreciate you and your nuggets and wisdom. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Terry.
Now we've gotten through the faith section. We've done failure. We've done faith. Now let's move on.
Hello.
Success. And this can have Leonard Mogul, and we have Pierre Dubois. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out and coming on in. While they're joining us, don't you guys forget.
Hi, Terry. Can you hear me okay?
Available on Amazon.
Okay, I can hear
now.
you.
So while you guys are getting the opportunity to see these contributing writers, you'll know kind of what the background story is into what as to why they wrote so much. Book that's written. They're hosting this session. We see you, Pierre and Leonard. Thank you, NDTV. You guys see me?
Yes, we can see you, and
there
you're coming in a little better now.
Welcome, welcome. Hi, Leonard. Are you good? You see us? You got on mute, Leonard. Can you unmute? Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today. You guys, we've had failure we've talked about with Glenn and Mel. We've had Samantha and Olivia talk about faith. Now we have Pierre and Leonard. We're coming in on the success. Guys, why success? Why did you jump in on that aspect of the book? Pierre, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at my screen so I can see what's going up.
I think success is something that every entrepreneur dreams about, no matter where you start, no matter what your product, service, or what your dreams are. And I think it's one of the things I was trying to do for my chapter is to try to tie some of those pieces of success to not just with faith and a little bit with failure, but to try to kind of help the reader understand, what to look for making that success happen and keeping it as sustainable. For businesses, that's what you look for. It's not just, we hear about success as being this destination, but in reality, it's a little bit more than that. It's more of it's more trying to figure out, you have all these puzzle pieces and you're trying to figure out which ones come together and which ones come together consistently for you to be profitable, for you to engage with people consistently, for you to engage with your customers consistently. And as I mentioned in my chapter, a little bit with even with people who are in your life, you have to figure out how to engage with them, particularly for problems and challenges as well.
Well, Pierre, your chapter is knowing when faith, failure, and your behavior lead to success. That's a different combination. How did you come about that?
Repeat one more time, Terry.
Oh, I said no. Your topic was knowing when faith, failure, and behavior lead to your success. That's a different combination. How'd you get there?
It's as I kind of alluded to a little bit, it's about how we think of success as this destination, but we have to look at what our behavior is, how do we deal with people. I talk about ethics, which I think is really important. A lot of times we hear people quote scripture and we think that, okay, they're ethical because they quote scripture. That's not always entirely true, unfortunately. And it becomes a little bit, that's a whole book and several volumes of books on itself. So
Jeffrey Blinken,
I
he's
think
doing that now. He's blinking people books, so yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's hard to, I think in business, the challenge becomes understanding what the pieces are that come together and a behavior that's consistent that allows you to be ethical, that allows you to be profitable. And I focus on this because it's really hard to know at the very beginning. I talked a little bit about, there was a little note in there I talked about with MLMs and how with multi-level marketing, they're not really a good model. That's not something I would, in fact, I'll be honest, this is the first time anywhere I even talked about this in 12 years. And the reason why I say that is because it may not be a great model, but sometimes people can start with those and then transfer into something else. So a lot of times it becomes a little bit of an ethics play in terms from my understanding, when I start with analytics, I look very critically at what the business model is for the client and I try to decide, is this a business model that I really would support in working with them? If it's not, I don't work with them. That's an ethics issue. It's the idea of knowing what your limits are. And a lot of times your faith should inform you and try to figure out what is that you should and shouldn't be doing.
Whoa, that's you just loaded us up right there before we even got started. We're gonna come back to you, Pierre, but I would like to talk to Leonard because he wrote the section "Success in Business: Effective Marketing for Nonprofits." It's like that's almost like the walk in the door opener. That's such a huge aspect. Share with us why you chose that topic to write about.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come on the show. I chose this particular topic. I'm in the media business. I also run a nonprofit organization, Arts for Kids Foundation. So these are both topics that are that I've been around and I've had a lot of time to learn about, of course. And so I chose the topic, or to write a chapter on that topic, to help people, to guide them to as a walkthrough how to start. A lot of times people get lost in the beginning, right? So they're confused where to start, how to start, and they make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. And so I try to kind of give them this guide for my chapter to function as a guide, where to start, what to do. And as people in the nonprofit world know, there is never enough budget to do all the things that we need to do to promote an organization. So my topic addresses that and shows people how to utilize existing connections, existing platforms, if you will. Instead of a lot of times people just use social media just for communicating, where they can also utilize social media for obvious thing to promote and grow their organization or small business. And especially right now, more than ever, when people are may not have all the abilities or funds, or may not have the ability to uh, meet people as much uh, in person. So, utilizing some of the things I talk about in my chapter should help a person to propel them forward with their initiative.
Do you think that's something that would be, and this is, I'm curious about this little myself. Is it something that would be innate for people to know that, or is it something that you believe is learned, or is best? Yeah, you know, some people have, they say entrepreneurs, some are just born versus being made. Do you think having that knowledge is something that would just be intuitive?
I think the drive and the passion for what they
Oh,
want to
that's good.
do, for instance, it being a nonprofit organization, they want to launch a nonprofit organization to help people in their community. So that's something innate, right? This is the passion that they're born with. They have the drive. They may not necessarily have the skills uh, how to do it. And the problem when a person just relies on that, on their intuition, without having the necessary skills and knowledge, they may run into some problems that may hinder their progress, and may even discourage some people from doing certain things. So my chapter helps to encourage people, to show them that if you have the passion, you have the drive, use some of the tools I talk about in my chapter, and it should help you to move you forward. So that's so I think it's a combination of both. Um, to In short, right? You can't start something without having passion, without having that uh, desire to do it, whether it's a small business or it's a nonprofit. Given the what you would have to invest of your time into any given project, you need to you need to have that passion, right? That drive, that gravitation towards this project. But you also need to have a certain skill set, which is learned, and that's why my
That's good.
chapter is there.
I think that's good how you broke that down because a lot of times, you know, people will see someone being successful in their business and they'll think that, oh, I can go and do that too. But I think you said to be intuitive and the drive that comes with it is a key factor in success. It this you know something you said, Pierre. You said ethics, and that like you said is a whole book and people relate, you know, saying some scripture the person's ethical. Can you give me a little more on that? I'm curious about that myself.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and I want to tie into what Leonard's excellent points are about passion and skill. He's absolutely right. There's passion is one part of this in terms of entrepreneurship, and maybe in terms, and you may just have a kernel of an idea, when I started Zamana, this was supposed to be, to be honest with you, it was supposed to be a VC. It was supposed to be a venture capital firm. But what I found was that trying to work with small businesses, that model going back, 10, actually 15 years, there were things there that were not available, that are available today that were not available then. It would have been harder to do that. So to tie in, I had to develop skills to build products and services that could solve a problem. When you build a business, your purpose, no matter what it is to solve a problem. It's supposed to solve a problem for the customer. And so the ethics part comes in terms of, it's your capabilities. And this is where, particularly for solo practitioners, for small teams, this is where we hear about imposter syndrome. And this is also why we hear about mental health. That's why I touched upon it in the chapter too as well. It's the idea that some people feel like there's an imposter syndrome because I don't have all the skills put together and what have you. There are some things you can do to build those skills. And as long as you're making the concrete steps and putting it together, you're being ethical with your customers. When you're not being ethical with your customers is when you're trying to advertise something and you are doing absolutely nothing to put together. Just even going back to what Glenn had said earlier in the program, this whole idea of, it's more than just saying your goals. You have to actually put something aside to put it together. And one of the tough parts in business, in all honesty, is you can say that, ethics is important, but it doesn't take much to run into somebody that is borderline, and you have to make a decision on, are they not developing the skills, or is their organization not putting the right resources together because they are poorly funded and they're not well put together, or is there something intentional? And this is why in America we have this goes into a whole nother topic, and unfortunately it gets into Trump a little bit as well too. I won't go there, but it's the whole idea that it's the idea.
Don't do it too. Don't do it.
It's identifying when something is really sort of not what it is, and to be ethical. That's why when I said the chapter, it's more to it than just scripture, or faith is a part of it. But you also need to understand how things are playing out and what the rules are. If you don't understand it, you won't be able to identify that breaking point where it's going from maybe, this wasn't quite a good fit and maybe I just need to leave it alone, to, hey, I think this is unethical, something is wrong. And I can tell you from personal experience with analytics, what I learned was that talking about metrics, talking about how to put analytics tags on a website, the questions I asked tied back into the business model. So if a client was being ethical, I can tell just by how they were asking questions, how they were following up, and then they weren't. That's telling me that maybe something that's not a guarantee that they're doing something wrong, but it's a clue, and you have to have those things to put in the background to understand what's going on.
I'm like, I want to pick up you guys' books on the side. But I'm curious now that we're closing at the end of the show, and I hate these portions, especially with this great conversation. What would you leave with people? I was letting everyone know this is a great time for this book to come out. What would you leave people coming out of 2020 who've experienced failure, faith, and now they're looking at and maybe a little leery of success? What would be your closing remarks regarding them moving forward towards success?
You want Leonard? You want
Leonard? You're like, yeah, we'll go down to you first, Leonard.
So your question is
what are your parting words? People who are moving, there is actually just like a fear of failure, a fear of success. So what would be your parting words to individuals, whether they be listening to this on the rewind, currently viewing? What are your parting words on saying, hey, someone who may say, I have a fear of success, or that can't be me?
Well, I think success needs to be approached carefully and steadily, and not to look at it in broad terms as success, right? As this global thing, but to look at it Every little thing you do every day to advance your business that's working is success. So you're making those quote unquote baby steps to advance your business. And I would also, to kind of build on one thing that Pierre said, I think it's important to, uh, for entrepreneurs, for people who just started out, to align yourself with knowledgeable people, with experts, with people who would be willing to support you, give you guidance. So uh, you're not sailing by yourself. You have, uh, co-captain, if you will, to help you, to guide you, and you learn from that person. You It's important. I know it's hard to find those people, but and sometimes we just fail to look and see, to see who we can use in our life, uh, for that purpose. And you'll find that there are people who are open to helping you. So this 2020 has been a tough year, and for many, but we've also had an opportunity to learn, to become bigger and better version of ourselves. And we found people who were there to support us, and we in turn supported other people. We utilized, thankfully, social media and various platforms to continue communicating and growing our business, and just becoming a better version of ourselves. And uh, and we've had time to learn, to educate. uh, we didn't have to, for most people, drive, commute, and lose many hours. So we had more time to grow spiritually, and grow intellectually, and I think it's this year has been a stepping stone to bigger things. And and part of my parting words is, uh, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it, because thoughts do materialize. So if you believe that you can do it, you have the right people to guide you, and you continue educating yourself and growing, um, intellectually, you will succeed. And success is not all about, making that $1 million right away. Success is about advancing your idea, your thoughts, uh, your organization, your business. It takes time, but believing in yourself and pushing yourself forward will help you to achieve those goals.
I appreciate that, Leonard. You made that very relatable. You made it very you brought it down to scale so people can, it's not a, you didn't dissertate on it like, in the vast cloud or anything like that. You made it real relatable, and I appreciate that. Pierre, we got a few more moments. I need you to close us out.
Okay, I'll do my best. Yeah, like
your
everybody
thoughts.
said.
Your success, your thoughts. No pressure.
Well, I'll say this: 2020 did suck. Everyone's going to say that pretty much. But I think what you want to do is think about, keep in mind, some things in business and in life are really about timing. I had another book I was trying to get out with O'Reilly Media that got, to be honest with you, they pulled it. I was beyond mad. Pretty much a lot of words I'm not going to say here tonight. So it really did throw off a lot of things for me. And when Glenn came up and approached me about doing this book, it was kind of a good fortune. Some things are about timing, and you have to be, if you're trying to get in out of 2020 and you know that it was really bad, it was bad for a lot of people. Some people are not living. That's a bigger deal, no matter what you are in business. The thing that you have is trying to figure out not to get so much in despair that you can't start looking at keeping an eye for opportunities. And this is where faith comes in. I told friends of mine I picked the color orange for Zamana for two reasons. First of all, it's my favorite color. It was my favorite color growing up. I used to get orange soda all the time. And then number two, it's the color you would see for a sunrise and a sunset. A sunrise gives you hope that the day is going to start off great, and a sunset gives you hope if you had a bad day that maybe tomorrow might be a little better.
I'll take that note that you just dropped. Can I have that? I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have to be hopeful. Every movie, even the darkest movie. I was joking with somebody about Empire Strikes Back. The whole idea that Leia and Luke are on a spaceship, waiting for seeing what's going on, hoping that they'll see Han again. Every moment you have to have hope. The mind is not designed to go through bad moments, and you need things to pull you through. This is where faith works for you. It fills in those gaps for the things that may not have an immediate answer. In business, that does happen. No matter, you do your best, organize. Just like Leonard said, you got to be, stay positive. And then what you try to do is kind of keep your eye on what's going on in the market and keep your eye for resources. I'll give one quick tip, and this will be my last bit. For a really good example, SCORE, which is the society, or I think it's some sort of society core of retired entrepreneurs or executives. And they have regional offices, but they can only reach out to certain areas of the country. Well, thanks to COVID and the fact that people are working more from home, you now have a resource that you can get to online. If you go to score.org, and if you're in an area that's remote, you can actually talk to people. In my area, Gary, Indiana, there's a SCORE office that is in Chicago that doesn't really serve the Northwest Indiana area. And the nearest office is across the state, 2 hours drive to Fort Wayne. Thanks to COVID and the opportunity, you now have, even for small business owners who need help, you have an opportunity online to go and get free help. So I'll say this, be optimistic, be hopeful, and find something in your faith that gives you that hope to hang on to, and then put the pieces together, like everyone has been saying. Take the time to make those steps, put them together, and what you'll find that you'll get through your 2020 may be bad, but you'll find that your 2021, you'll set yourself up the way that Glenn had mentioned and the way that other authors have mentioned as well, too.
I think that is an amazing ending. Thank you, sir. That was really good. I think the contributing, thank you, Pierre. I think the contributing writers have shared such nuggets. And I think in closing, I just want to, the writers that we have today, I just want to say thank you for what you've shared, the nuggets you've given. And I'm glad people had the opportunity to see the face and hear the story as they read Faith, Failure, and Success. That's available on Amazon. They can know kind of what the backstory is to them. So to all my contributing writers, Glenn, Mel, Samantha, Olivia, Leonard, Pierre, there we go. We got them coming back up.
Thank you,
We want to
Terry.
thank you guys so much for joining us in this virtual celebration for the launch of Faith, Failure, Success. We want to thank NDTV for hosting this show. We want to thank Glenn for being your baby, as well as publishing. Thank you guys. Amazing job.
So, hey, Terry, before we go, can I say something?
And who will see this video. Yes.
Yeah,
what
I just want to say,
yes, of course, it's your baby.
I just want to say thank you to all the contributors. We asked a lot of people to be part of this book, and we didn't get a lot of people that said yes, but these guys did, and I'm so proud because they were the right group to have. They were supposed to be here. Sam is a first-time author. I think Leonard's a first-time author as well. So congratulations to them because they wrote.
It went very well. The flow of it.
Yeah, so they wrote awesome chapters, and just thank you guys for being a part of it. We appreciate you, okay? And thanks everybody for joining. And buy the book, please buy the book.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great evening.
Join us, Indie TV,
Much success,
where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.